What a world, is your homeboy Wordplay TJ, and this is the final part to my interview with Derek Sivers. He's the founder of CD Baby. He's an entrepreneur, writer, and dad, and all of these other things that he does now. And I had a great conversation with him. So far, there's been 2 parts. If you haven't been able to see those, or if you haven't watched those, be sure to go back and take a look at them, because I think it's really great for you to watch these in sequence and in order, because Derek has a lot of nuggets if you are a writer, performer, songwriter, just a musician as in general. So the first thing I asked, is mastery a skill? Is mastery something that musicians should focus on? And if so, what musician has used mastery to their advantage in history?
Oh, man. So my intro to music was, I'm a little embarrassed to say, in the mid-'80s, was all those fast heavy metal guitar players. That was like the thing in the mid-'80s, was the big hair and the fast fingers on a guitar. So that was how I began at the age of 14, is I practiced finger exercises and scales and arpeggios up and down the neck as fast as I could, like 6 hours a day for years. And yeah, sure enough, by the time I was like 16, 17, I was really damn fast. Yeah. So I was on this kind of mastery path to the guitar. So yeah, I guess I was kind of drenched in that mindset, that mastery mindset. It was all about who could be the fastest, who could be the best. But yeah, that goes for everything. I mean, historically, apparently there was this like violinist a long time ago called Paganini, that they said he was like possessed by Satan because his fingers were just so amazing, you know. So this virtuoso technique, it's funny that I've got mixed feelings about it now, because I kind of hate listening to virtuosos. Yeah. Like instrumental virtuosos that kind of have this, you know, watch me approach to their instrument. I don't find it nice to listen to. I prefer an amazingly well-crafted recording, or a great arrangement, or a great an amazing song that's like well-crafted song that's like so tight, meaning tight, where it's like every note needs to be there. Like, man, that's a perfect song. So I do still believe that the mastery path, the virtuoso path of like mastering your craft, is the way to go in anything, whether you want to be a writer, a producer, an engineer. Oh man, what would that path look like? How to like master the craft of engineering? You'd probably want to like sit in. Sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of that, that's what's burning in my head right now. There is a musician that I feel like history is gonna be like, this guy was the greatest. But
yeah, please tell me. I'm curious.
He's primarily an engineer. He's Jay-Z's engineer, and he goes by Guru, Young Guru. Okay. Guru is incredibly like tight in his engineering, and when you listen to songs like Empire State of Mind, like that song, that record he engineered. Run This Town by Jay-Z. He's done a bunch of stuff for other musicians. Like, I think he worked on the new Rhapsody project, who is a young MC, female MC from North Carolina. And, but every time he touches the boards, I have to analyze his mixes, because that's just something that I'm just like, how did he do that? You know, and I always compare my masters to his masters, and I'm just like, I want to get there.
I love that.
Do that.
There was an engineer back in the 90s, called himself Flood, Flood. To just, man, I would just buy any record if he engineered it, because the sounds were just so creative. He would do stuff that was so twisted and different. And I'm listening to this, like, how did you get that? So what is that? And I'd see sitting there in my studio, like trying to imitate these sounds, like trying to figure out how he did that. I love that. See, these people, like the underrated behind the scenes heroes. I mean, a couple come to mind. I don't know about underrated, but Max Martin. In the world of pop, this like Swedish guy that's like 49 that nobody would recognize on the street has written more, or I think as many #1 singles as the Beatles, or almost as many, or something like that. Or maybe he's like right behind Lennon and McCartney as having the all-time. Maybe so. Starting back in 1990, he's the guy that wrote Britney Spears' "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." And like all these Backstreet Boys hits, and all the way, I think he's still doing. I think like these Katy Perry hits you hear, like all these came from one guy, and it's like masterful pop songwriting. And how cool to be behind the scenes. I don't know if I think he also produces a lot of them, but yeah, as far as like pop songwriting, that guy's just a master. In Nashville, there's a guy named Tom Jackson that is a master at crafting a great stage show. He's actually a stage show consultant, I guess you could call him. He directs concerts. Yeah. Like, so when a pop star is putting together their show to go on tour for a year, he works with them to like craft a great live performance. And so you can, if you look up Tom Jackson Nashville, you get some of, I think you can buy his videos in book or something like that with all of his advice. Kind of, if he tried to share everything he's learned, I think you can get videos of him doing these workshops with artists, and just a master at putting together a great live show. And it just, I love this idea that we think of virtuosos as, you know, the fastest or whatever, or the best at their thing. Yeah. But like you gave this example of, sorry, what's his name? Guru?
Guru. Yeah. Guru.
Guru the engineer, and just like, or the songwriter, or the guy that's consulting on stage shows. Like, these people can be total virtuosos. I love it. Yeah.
Next, we talked a little bit about how artists can be in the now. I think his answer was really intriguing, and so I think you should take a look at that.
I'm actually a little stumped. If I ever said that in the past, I think I might disagree now. I probably know when I said it. There was a great book called The Time Paradox about living in the present moment versus the future and versus the past and all that. But I don't know, think about your question right now. I know that a lot of people who have written hit songs also like very deliberately sat down with the goal of writing a hit song. Like, even I remember reading some Beatles interviews that like even people would glorify them thinking that they were all like peace and love, but they said, no, we would sit down and say like, let's write a swimming pool. Like, let's write a song that's going to make us $1 million and get us a swimming pool in our house. And then they would write one of their great songs that everybody knows. And yes, it was a great song, but they wrote it in a very future focused, like, let's make lots of money today kind of approach. So, yeah, on the other hand, there are some people who are totally doing the same thing and not having any success and creating crap. And there are people who live in the present moment making crap, and there are people living in the present moment who are just making genius come out of their speakers. So,
you can say, like, I guess when the Beatles sat down to write, they're thinking about the future in that moment.
That's what I mean.
And not really being in the now. So it can happen both ways.
It's probably just completely disconnected. I bet you that whether you're being in the present now moment or whether you're future focused is probably kind of unrelated to what you're going to create. There are ways to create amazing music either way, and there are ways to create crap either way. So
looks like just have fun.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Guru says that when he sits down to engineer a record, he'll listen through it once, you know, get the vibe of it, and then he'll go through and just kind of have fun with it and make the adjustments as quick as he possibly can, you know? And once he makes those adjustments, he has to have the confidence to stick with those first of mind adjustments.
Wow. Did he say that? Did you read an interview or something? Or?
I've watched several interviews, and
cool.
that's basically his process, is going through, and like, he doesn't overthink anything. And that's what he mentions, is he's not in a space where he like needs to think about what adjustment he needs to make or anything like that. The only time he is really thinking involved in his craft is when there is like new technology, because he was one of the first to use Pro Tools. And,
wow.
And so he learned that process and then just kind of put it into his intuitiveness.
Wow. Cool. And just to go, it's to show that there are different ways. One of my old favorite producers was Brian Eno, whose whole thing was to deliberately overthink everything. He would like question every note, saying, does that really need to be there? Let's see what happens when we get rid of it. Well, what isn't there that we could try to put in? And so his whole thing was to try to flip expectations musically, to deliberately overthink everything. I think he kind of felt that was his job. So that's really cool to hear that Guru just goes with the opposite. And
maybe that's his intuitive nature, you know?
Right.
Brian's intuitive nature is to just flip things on its head.
Wow.
No.
I love this stuff. I'm
having that moment now.
To round off this interview, we started having a little fun. I don't think any part of the interview wasn't fun for me, but I just wanted to loosen it up a little bit for these last couple questions. And so I asked him, what's his favorite hip hop song and what elements does he like most about it? Here's his answer.
Ooh, I'm embarrassed to say. I'm embarrassed because I wish somebody would turn me on to something new. I wish I had some like brand new thing I could say is my favorite, but I haven't yet. So anybody listening, please send me an email. Please turn me on to your new favorite thing, because I need to be turned on to something new. Because as of right now, you got to understand, I moved to New York City in 1990. And to me, the sound of New York in 1991 is Low End Theory. Boom, 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 boom. When that comes on, boom, 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 boom. Back in the days when I was a teenager, before I had status, before I had a pager. And I just love that it's like the pager, you know, the way that Bobby Brown is just amping like Michael. I'm like, I love one of these songs are like, it's a, you know, it's like a Polaroid photo of my past self. It's like this dead technology, this, you know, so yeah, God, when, you know, I can try to listen to some new stuff, but still when it's like when Low End Theory comes on in the shuffle, that's like, I just get...
Q-Tip was good about using that bass in his productions.
And that was Ron Carter, wasn't it? That was like, you know, so he was like a real jazz bassist on that album. And just, you know, this guy that plays with Miles Davis. But okay, so you asked about the ingredients. So the thing is, I would love to listen like instrumental hip hop. Like there was this album long ago called, I think it was a band called Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy with Michael Franti that later made Spearhead. And the thing is, there was so much going on instrumentally, but then Michael Franti was like on top of it all and like mixed really high in the mix vocally. And I wish that I could get an instrumental version of that because I wanted to hear what was going on behind it, right? Like, I've never been into folk music because folk music seems like it's just all about the lyrics and they're just strumming C, G, D chords behind it, which is just boring. But then you get hip hop, which is also all about the lyrics, except what's going on behind it is so damn interesting. So sometimes I really kind of wish it's like, you know, the lyrics are so distracting. The voice is so distracting. We're humans. We're drawn to the voice. I wish I could get an instrumental version of most of the hip hop out there. Even, yeah, I do that with a lot of records. I always try to find the instrumental version. Even if I like a song, I want to remove the distracting voice so I can focus more on what's going on behind it. So I guess, yeah, I'm still, when it comes down to it, I'm more of a music guy than a words and voice guy. So when you ask what I love about things, I guess I've given 2 answers now. The nostalgia of especially Q-Tip's voice and Tribe Called Quest and Low End Theory in particular. It's just that, to me, it's that snapshot of 1991, moving to New York City. Oh my God. It was just overwhelming. I was 20 years old, you know, it was a time in my life.
And then the qualities of the instrumentals.
Yeah.
And finally, at the end of this entire interview, I asked, is there one song in history that every musician should study or every songwriter should study in order to get better at their craft? And his answer is pretty cut and dry. So go ahead and check it out.
No, here's why. So remember I said I went to Berklee School of Music. So from the age of 17 to 20, I was in this music college full-time where the teachers would make you analyze their favorite music. They'd say, listen to this Cannonball Adderley solo. Listen to this John Prine song. And the examples they were giving, I never liked. So yeah, I would sit there and we'd analyze their favorite song, but it just did nothing for me, right? They'd say, oh, listen to, you know, the harmony of this. Listen to his lyrics describing the wrinkles on the back of his grandmother's hand. Isn't that, you know, a masterpiece? And I'd think, no. I don't ever want to write lyrics about the wrinkles on my grandma's hand. Sorry, that's just not my thing. It took me a couple of years. What?
It reminds me of my creative writer professors.
Yes, exactly. This guy was like that kind of guy, but applied to lyric writing, right? So it took me a couple of years to realize how to use their analytical techniques on my favorite music that they would probably hate, but kind of like you talk about, like, you know, figuring out how did Guru do that? And me going, how did Flood do this? Figuring out how to dissect whatever moves you the most. Like, don't let anybody else, especially not some guy that started CD Baby, tell you what's the one song you should listen to become a better musician. Like, no, ignore everybody else's opinion and instead learn the techniques of how to dissect your favorite song. In fact, here's my best advice on that. Like, if you want to understand how a car works, it's not enough to just take apart a car. You can take apart a car in your driveway and break it into 1,000 pieces, and you'll know a little bit of how a car works. But if you really want to know how a car works, you got to put one together and make it work. So I think this applies musically too, that if you want to understand how your favorite music works, you need to build it up yourself. You can take it down, you can dissect it, but you've got to go into the studio and imitate that song, every layer of it. That syncopated echo, the reverb here, like try to get the frequencies of this kick and to try to even imitate the sound of the voice and the mic and like compare it back, like figure out, rebuild it yourself. That's how to do it. Yeah.
That's what every A&R says.
Really? Really?
They say go study the hit records and just mimic one of them and you'll find it.
Huh, I'd never heard somebody say that. Cool.
But this has been great. I feel like I've come away from this conversation a little bit more aware and knowledgeable. I feel like I know you better now, and yeah, this is some great content that I'm going to deliver to my supporters and my watchers, and give them some of these golden nuggets that you've given
Thanks,
us,
TJ.
given me anyway.
Well, thanks, TJ. Appreciate it. And yeah, anybody listening to this, please go to my website and introduce yourself. It's the reason why I do these things. I'm not selling anything. I really like the people that I meet from doing these conversations. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to put that down in the description, as well as information on new books and everything else that they can find. Obviously, from the front page here, if they click some of these links, they'll go on a treasure hunt.
Thank you.
But thank you for your time again, and I appreciate it.
Cool, thanks.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Yeah.
So that's it. That is the end of this 3-part series. I appreciate you if you've watched part 1, part 2, and part 3. If you haven't been able to see all 3 parts, be sure to go back and take a look. If you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe, like this video if you like it, share it with somebody if they'll get something out of it. And I appreciate you watching. Until next time, it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ. Peace. All right, so the video is over now, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Let me know how you feel about it, and then watch more videos about the same subject up here, and then another video that YouTube recommends down here. Peace.